Another miracle of the Gospels is the demoniac of Gadara. Jesus crosses over from Capernaum after he was rejected by the religious leaders. They accused him of doing miracles by the power of Beelzebub. At that point, it's a major change in Jesus' ministry. He says, okay, boys, let's go over to the other side. Let's go to Gadara. Let's go to Gentile territory. It's the first time Jesus goes to Gentile territory. So they're heading over to Gadara. They have the windstorm. Jesus calms the winds and the waves, no problem there. But they get to the other side to Gadara. Now, my personal opinion is that landing was at the harbor of Kibbutz Ha'on. That's where the miracle took place, as opposed to the other site, which the national park will show you, the Kersey Church. I don't think that has anything to do with the Gadara incident. But there's a textual problem here that we need to discuss also. Matthew records in the Textus Receptus, which is what I would follow. In the Textus Receptus, he says Gergasha. Mark and Luke say Gadara. People have seen a discrepancy there. I don't. Because Gergasha is a Jewish term for a region of Gadara. Mark and Luke are using a Gentile term, Gadara, because they're writing to a Gentile audience, and the Gentiles know where Gadara is. They don't know where Gergasha is. But a Jewish audience reading Matthew's Gospel will say, we know where Gergasha is. Now, the fact that you have both Greek and Hebrew in the same context is well attested to. For example, there was an Ashuri, a Jewish bone box, that had the name of a person in Greek from Sycopolis, and then his Hebrew name from Beit Sha'an, 1st century. Here was a fellow who had a Greek name, a Hebrew name. He was from the same place, Sycopolis, which was the Greek name for Beit Sha'an, and the Hebrew name, Beit Sha'an. So, what you have the same thing in the Gospels. Matthew is presenting a Jewish perspective, so he uses Gergasha. Mark and Luke, a Gentile perspective, he uses Gadara. Now, Gadara was one of the 10 Decapolis cities, which had lakefront property on the Sea of Galilee. Kibbutz Ha'on had the harbor there, one of the largest harbors on the Sea of Galilee. And people came from Gadara, went to Hamat Gadara, where the hot springs were, and then came over to the harbor of Gadara, and they used to have sea battles there. And it's commemorated on the coins of Gadara. So you have this event, they land at the harbor there, and Jesus runs into a demoniac, actually 2 of them. Matthew mentioned 2 demoniacs, Mark and Luke only mentioned 1. And the reason for that, again, Matthew is presenting Jesus as the King of Israel. In a Jewish court of law, how many witnesses do you need? 2. Gentiles don't care about that. Jews, you need two witnesses. And so there's 2 demoniacs there, and Jesus casts the demons into the swine there. Now, at Kibbutz Ha'on, there used to be 3 large limestone sarcophagi that were found there. They've since been broken by tourist buses that rammed into them and broken them. But they used to be there. There was a cemetery in that area. And it makes perfect sense. This is where the demoniac event took place. Now, what is interesting is that the swine come down from the Golan Heights, which was famous for its oak trees. And one of the things pigs eat, not grass, but acorns. And so the context fits in very nicely. They came down across the plain and drowned into the Sea of Galilee at Kibbutz Ha'on in that area down there. Now, what is interesting also is why the swine? Well, for the Jewish audience, they're not kosher, that's fine. But for the Gentile audience, this was one of their major sacrifices to atone for sin. Not any kind of pig, but black pigs. That was used for sacrificing. And what Jesus is saying to the Roman audience reading the Gospels, the Gentile audience, salvation isn't in pigs, salvation is in me, the Lord Jesus. And so you have the demoniac and the swine and so forth. Now, what is even more interesting, The demoniac sits at the feet of Jesus in Luke's gospel. Now, if you want to be a disciple of a rabbi, what position do you take? You sit at the feet of the rabbi. He says, I want to be your disciple. And Jesus says, no, you go and tell your family and friends what great things, and one gospel writer says, Theos, God has done for you. The other gospel writer says, what Kurios, the Lord has done for you. And both texts say he went and told everybody what Jesus did for him. Now this fellow would have been a lousy Jehovah's Witness, because he understood that Jesus was both Theos, God, and Kurios, Lord. Now, later on when Jesus feeds the 4,000, that's a Gentile feeding in the Gentile territory of the Decapolis. How did all those people find out about Jesus? The demoniac. He went around and told everybody what great things Jesus had done for him. And so when Jesus goes to the Decapolis for the first time, everybody wants to hear him, because this was the first Gentile missionary in the New Testament to a Gentile audience.